All right, so I'm going to be talking about Stalker 2 today. Going to talk about my impressions of the game. I'm a little bit into it. I'm about 40 minutes into this game, so I kind of wanted to give you an idea of what my experience has been, how the game plays, and all of that. Also, want to get into the numbers and kind of talk about how it's doing out in the real world. So we're going to get into that later, and just going to start with the gameplay here, which is obviously Stalker 2. Just kind of talk about what my experience has been. And obviously you can see from the screen, I mean, the graphics are pretty impressive with this game. As far as I know, I think this is in-engine. So, I mean, even just the cutscenes, they're always going to look a little better. But even in gameplay, it looks fantastic. I had some trouble getting it to run at first. Had some issues with first graphical settings and then audio settings. Now that's probably because I was running in Linux, so I had to kind of monkey around with a few things to get it to work right, but once I did that, it was fine. I think the audio issues are in Windows because I was looking through some website posts, and it's like, if you're using 48 kilohertz audio settings, it requires 44.1, so you might need to change that. So even in Windows, that could be a problem. So overall, once I got it running, it looks beautiful. Gameplay is awesome. Solid mechanics. Haven't had any major complaints. It is a very dark game. Now that could be also because I'm running in Linux, but it is phenomenally dark. Sometimes it's hard to see where you're going, if not impossible. And there is a certain degree of intention behind that in this game. I think it seems like they're trying to make you feel like you're stumbling around in the darkness, and they managed to do that. At least with me, I had some major problems. I actually tried to ramp up the gamma to try and see what was going on, because in a couple of spots I kind of completely got lost. So yeah, it was a challenge in those few spaces, but once I got through that, overall the game is just fantastic. It's been a lot of fun to play, and I'm getting into it. It's a lot of fun to kind of monkey around with all this weird post Cold War Soviet-esque vibe again, and they definitely did Stalker 1 justice. I mean, this is definitely a continuation of that. There's no politics, there's none of that stuff in there, and I kind of thought there could be, just because the team is Ukrainian. So I mean, the current politics of the era are definitely affecting them. They had to move their studio because of the war with Russia, and none of that so far has been put into the game. None of that is a part of this. This is purely anchored in the Stalker universe. They're not bringing the contemporary politics into it so far at all, that I've seen. So kudos to them for sticking to their guns and sticking to the actual story. And hopefully it stays that way. Like I said, I'm only about 40 minutes into this game, and so it's not very far, but it does seem like it's gonna stay to its true form, which is great to see, because that's how you make a good game. You don't talk about current politics. You don't talk about the current thing in the news, because immediately upon talking about that, you've just dated your game. So once the news cycle moves on, which like we see in this world, that's a 24-hour cycle. Once the news cycle moves on from that, your game is obsolete and pointless. And so good on them for keeping it Stalker, keeping it genuine and true to form. So overall, like I said, great experience so far. I'm going to keep playing it and keep working through and making some gameplay footage. So I think this is going to be gameplay footage for a good long while with my videos, as I continue to play through this game. And yeah, it's a neat idea. It's a neat concept, and I'm glad that they brought it back, because it's been too long since Stalker 1. So let's just go ahead and talk about those numbers again. And just going to open up my window so we can talk about that. So here's the Steam page, mostly positive, clearly. It's been very well received. In fact, just recently they said they crossed the 1 million sale threshold, and I'm going to talk about that in a separate video, but clearly this thing is selling. Clearly this thing is very popular, which makes good on their devotion to continue on with the Stalker series. So yeah, it has shortcomings as of 36 hours since release. However, it still feels like Stalker. That's pretty accurate. I can feel the love, sweat, and passion that's been poured into the beautiful wasteland. I can appreciate the dedication that the devs have put forth, bringing a worthy sequel to such a beloved franchise, and it certainly wouldn't have been easy. So, this first review right here is kind of my experience in a nutshell. Again, this is not recommended. Fans are praising the game for the idea of what could one day become, but the game's state right now is rough. I can't in good faith blindly recommend a game just because I'm a fan. Stalker 2 needs more time, and honestly, it needs some testing that would reveal some of or all the problems listed below. Underneath all that is a spirit of the original Shadow of Chernobyl, but just like the game had a rough launch when ran poorly, history repeats itself with a new one as well. Positives, feeling like the original, difficulty options. I was on normal difficulty, not like easy, not hard, because it's been a long time since I've played Stalker. I don't hardly remember any of that. I really need to go through Stalker 1 again, just to kind of get the context, but I figured, middle of the road would be good. A lot of different anomalies, which are deadly, different weathers. Story has been interesting so far, nothing eye-rolling. I'm curious if there are actual consequences for the different actions you take, and if you'll get to see people that you've saved later on. TLDR, poor performance. You must use DLSS or FSR to have playable FPS. I didn't have that issue, but again, I got a fairly decent rig and I'm running on Linux, so I don't have a lot of extra garbage in the background sucking up my resources like Windows does. So that might be a context of a consequence of that. When looting dead enemies, you don't see faction that the person belonged to or their rank either, just a name that's nothing saying. Unable to loot mutants for their body parts to sell them later on. Yeah, I noticed that too. Using a uniform of a faction doesn't seem to protect against that faction. They'll still attack you. Can't see the standing with faction going up or down when doing certain actions like killing the members of that faction. Bloodsucker on veteran. Hardest difficulty turns towards me, attacks me for about 80% of my HP, and then cloaks and runs away, giving me enough time to quick heal, but not enough time to sometimes even reload my gun. And he keeps doing this over and over until either I kill him or he kills me. Yeah, that one's that's tough. Even the non-veteran bloodsuckers are pretty nasty. Let's see. I mean, there's a lot of negatives, I guess. But there are bugs, there are issues, and in my experience, not nearly as much as you would get with some of these other AAA titles that have come out. So, in context, yes, there are bugs. Yes, there are issues. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of patches in the future to fix those, but I'm not really running into them. And that could be a consequence of the rig I'm running it on. But yeah, overall, a lot of positives, not a lot of negatives. Now let's just go ahead and dig into this a little bit better, like I like to do. So over 10 hours and Steam purchases, and we'll see very positive. So 81% of the 1,985 user reviews are positive, and that is up from that what was it? Let's see. 77%. So, yeah, the longer people play it, it seems the more they like it, which is a good sign as well. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much in a nutshell what I kind of think of Stalker is overall a really solid game, really solid entry in the series. And people are playing it, people are enjoying it. Like we got 117,000 peak from yesterday, or from the day before yesterday. Yesterday it was 110,000. I'm suspecting this weekend it's going to be much higher. Oh yeah, there we go. So 104 already, and we'll see what goes on after that. The owner estimates, obviously VG Insights is way high because we know that it crossed 1 million. So Steam Spy is, I guess, the most accurate. I don't know. That might be a little high too, because 1 million sales across all platforms that it's on, which is not just Steam. So I don't know. Maybe that's not accurate. I have to look into that a little better because I just heard 1 million sales. I don't know if that was 1 million Steam sales or 1 million sales in general or what have you. But so yeah, we're looking at a lot of owners, a lot of interest in this game, and obviously right to release here. it jumped up a little bit, but it was solid before. I mean, it was before this hockey stick, 235,000 follows on the Steam. So yeah, very solid entry, very popular game, and I can see this thing doing really good numbers. I mean, this is going to break 2 million sales if it keeps going this way. It's kind of a battle now between how fast player counts and sales drop off versus getting to that 2 million. So if we keep seeing 100,000 simultaneous players consistently on a peak like this, it'll easily cross 2 million sales and more than make its money back, because you're looking at a million sales is what, 35-40 million in their pockets, and the budget of this, they estimate, is not more than 60 million. I have heard 100 million thrown around, but that's from outside sources, so 60 million is probably the upper end. So if they do 2 million in sales, they made a profit. And like I said, I'm going to talk more about that in a future video, but we're going to just kind of stick to the actual game itself today, and these numbers and the opinions of people that are actually playing it today. But yeah, overall, there's good and there's bad, and it seems like the takeaway in my experience and in everybody else's experience that's out here is just the bugs are the issue. The game itself, once they fix those bugs, is going to be well worth playing and well worth checking out. So yeah, it's going to be good. And here's one of those areas where I could not figure out how to get past it. You're crawling through this sewer pipe, and you've got to get up and over, and it's just pitch black. So I had a problem getting that. So I had to go back and forth a bit to try and figure out what was going on. Dodge through here and try and figure out where I was actually supposed to go, because it wasn't clear where you needed to go in that sewer, and I kind of assumed that you'd have to go to the end, and I had to jump up and jump around and walk around and stuff because it was pitch black. You were just stumbling around in the dark, and now that I know that, though, I'm starting to catch on that I just kind of need to fumble around until I find my way. There was also another scene later on in a bunker that's the same idea. It's just pitch black and you can't see anything, so that was a problem with me. As far as bugs go, I didn't have any problems with bugs, but, like I said, your experience may differ, depending on what kind of hardware you have and what state your version of Windows is in. I mean, Windows is, I don't know. Windows is a whole nother concept, a whole nother conversation. But I mean, there's just so much in the background on Windows now, that just bogs that system down. And the longer you run it without a clean swipe, a clean reformat, the worse it gets, it seems. And that's always been the case to a certain degree, but it's just been getting bad and really, really bad. Windows 10, Windows 11, especially have some issues that need addressing. But, I guess that's what happens when you have more powerful hardware. You just throw more complicated software at it and kind of equal out that hardware, just cancel out that hardware advantage. But yeah, even with Linux, there are issues, but not like Windows. So I think that's where all these problems are really stemming from, is that, Windows is not great. And, obviously Linux isn't either. I had my own problems, but they weren't performance related. So at least there's that. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of things, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.